He draws from personal experiences and historical examples to illuminate timeless lessons about character, courage, and self-mastery. Ryan Holiday opens the discussion with an overview of Stoicism, framing it as a philosophy focused on managing one's internal responses rather than external events. He highlights Marcus Aurelius's Meditations as a deeply personal journal written by a powerful Roman emperor grappling with anxiety, loss, and responsibility. The essence of Stoicism, Holiday explains, is the continuous struggle to become the person philosophy aims to shape, balancing ideals with daily challenges. Stoicism is less about suppressing emotions and more about processing them thoughtfully, questioning their validity, and deciding whether to assent to them or let them go. Holiday emphasizes the importance of reading Meditations as a lifelong companion that offers guidance depending on one's needs at any moment. He explores the analogy of money changers who recognize fake coins quickly, relating this to cultivating intuition in distinguishing true from false thoughts or productive from unproductive emotions. Stoicism teaches a necessary distance from one's thoughts, encouraging constant self-reflection and mindful control over what we allow to impact our sense of well-being. Addressing a listener's question on anxiety, depression, and brain injury, Holiday describes Stoicism as a practice that strengthens the capacity to disentangle oneself from harmful thought patterns. He stresses that worries often distort reality, and most of what we fear either has no bearing on outcomes or can be faced when it actually arises. He likens the brain to sometimes being an obstacle, prone to biases and false narratives, which one can counter through disciplined thought and journaling. Importantly, Holiday clarifies that Stoicism is not emotional repression or bottling up feelings. Drawing on examples of Marcus Aurelius crying over the deaths of loved ones and catastrophes, he underscores Stoicism's emphasis on processing and eventually releasing intense feelings rather than denying them. The goal is regaining centeredness, not emotional dullness, and finding appropriate outlets, usually through physical activity or engaging work, to manage internal stress. The conversation transitions to parenting, with Holiday reflecting on his own experiences raising children on a Texas ranch and the common tension between wanting to be more stoic for the family's sake and grappling with everyday frustrations. He advocates for modeling humility, patience, and presence over rigid control or emotional detachment. Using anecdotes such as a bedtime battle over where a child wants to sleep, he highlights the value of choosing battles wisely and focusing on what truly matters, rather than clinging to arbitrary authority for its own sake. Holiday counsels that parenting requires ongoing self-examination, humility, and a willingness to apologize. He believes no parent is perfect, but engaging thoughtfully and striving to improve through feedback, both from one's spouse and children, is crucial. He stresses the importance of being a positive presence emotionally and physically available, rather than distracted or stressed. Parenting to him is about planting enduring values by example and fostering curiosity, resilience, and connection rather than control. Holiday discusses the dangers of ego, defining it as the obstruction between a person and their goals. Contrary to common use, ego is not confidence, but grandiosity and self-delusion. He stresses the importance of self-awareness, admitting one's own vulnerabilities rather than denying them. Success tends to inflate ego, and the accompanying flatterers deepen its influence, so continuous self-criticism and seeking challenges where one is outmatched help maintain humility. Giving examples from his publishing career and Elon Musk's ventures, Holiday illustrates the fine line between trusting one's instincts and falling prey to delusion. Whether risking a business idea or creative project, understanding the story one tells oneself about success or failure governs future decisions. Confidence paired with humility emerges as a healthier orientation than blind certainty. A significant part of the episode is devoted to exploring the toxic media environment and its consequences for public discourse and personal well-being. Holiday chronicles the evolution from traditional journalism to a fragmented, click-driven, and often disingenuous information economy dominated by social media algorithms rewarding outrage and sensationalism. He argues that economic incentives drive creators to prioritize virality, especially extreme emotions like anger, over truth. Holiday warns of confirmation bias and audience capture, where content creators tailor their narratives to satisfy supporters rather than present complex realities. The result is widespread misinformation, polarization, and manipulation, not least by foreign actors exploiting these divisions. He points out the necessity of media literacy, historical perspective, and skepticism, noting that many historical figures grappled with massive societal crises, so our present turmoil is neither new nor insurmountable. On political frustration, Holliday observes that power and status often trap officials into compromising their values for longevity in office. He highlights the contrast between formal authority and real courage, underscoring that moral courage is a muscle that must be exercised continuously, starting in everyday decisions rather than waiting for a crisis moment. If one delays doing the right thing, the habit of inaction solidifies, making future bravery harder. The dialogue turns deeply personal as Holliday and the host examine the tensions between work, family, and self-fulfillment. Holliday recounts the challenges of being fully present with his children while managing professional demands, acknowledging the modern death spiral of cultural distractions, social media, and work pressures. He shares how he measures family involvement by physical moments like attending bedtime routines and by his emotional presence, valuing being a calming influence rather than an additional stressor. The couple's conscious effort to equally share parenting responsibilities and emotional labor counters lingering societal norms about gender roles. Holliday reflects on the privilege of choice and recognizes that few have the opportunity to balance or even contemplate these questions amid economic hardships. They discuss the paradox of success that parents face, wanting to provide materially but also desiring to teach humility and resilience. Holliday stresses the importance of modeling values, encouraging children's passions, and fostering an environment where kids learn curiosity and persistence rather than entitlement or superficial markers of wealth. Holliday elaborates on the Stoic practice of memento mori, the reminder of one's mortality, as an active meditation to instill urgency and appreciation for the present. He quotes Seneca's idea that death is behind us because the years we've already lived belong to death. The real value lies in how one uses the time remaining, not postponing meaningful action or deferring happiness until some future milestone. He reflects on how personal proximity to death, whether through trauma or loss, temporarily sharpens perspective but tends to fade, allowing trivial worries and egotism to creep back. Holliday encourages frequent resets to get back to center and to recognize how precious and fleeting time with loved ones truly is, noting that parents often regret the moments lost in frustration rather than savoring simple joys. Addressing common questions about speed reading, Holliday disputes the idea that reading faster is beneficial, asserting that reading's true value is in the depth of engagement and conversation with great minds across time. He emphasizes that reading is magical, a portal through which we converse with history's wisest thinkers, gaining insight and perspective impossible to obtain otherwise. Rather than shortcuts, Holliday advocates for carving out time intentionally to read and absorb ideas, which in turn fuels creativity, decision-making, and emotional resilience. He uses carrying a physical book as a tactic to avoid digital distractions and maximize those small pockets of downtime. Responding to a listener's query about Audie Murphy, the most decorated American soldier, Holliday highlights Murphy's extraordinary physical courage alongside his moral courage, such as turning down lucrative endorsements that conflicted with his values and openly discussing his struggles with PTSD at a time when such topics were taboo. Holliday contrasts genuine courage with the shallow performance of alpha male stereotypes, warning that Stoicism is not a tool to justify sociopathy or abuse. The philosophy centers on virtue, particularly justice, which governs one's contributions to society. Courage without justice risks becoming weaponized for harmful causes, emphasizing that ethical foundations are essential to real toughness. Holliday encourages parents and leaders alike to look inward honestly at their shortcomings rather than projecting only upward judgment. He acknowledges how easy it is to overlook one's own hypocrisy and stresses the importance of surround systems, like boards, cabinets, and trustworthy partners, to provide honest feedback and prevent self-delusion. He cites historical examples of rulers who became isolated in their power, surrounded only by sycophants, leading to poor decisions and downfall. To avoid this, Holiday advocates actively seeking criticism, maintaining a spirit of humility, and resisting the urge to punish dissent, practices that ensure better governance and healthier relationships. Throughout the episode, Holiday circles back to the idea that courage, justice, wisdom, and discipline are virtues to be developed through persistent practice. Waiting for the right moment or a dire crisis to act is a common pitfall. Instead, he advises building habits of integrity and speaking truth to power in everyday life, however small the stakes. By doing so, individuals prepare themselves for the greater challenges ahead and simultaneously influence cultural norms by example. These incremental acts of bravery counteract widespread apathy and cynicism, providing hope and momentum to collective progress. Holiday reflects on the importance of commitment to family without rigidity, highlighting that many parental conflicts arise from a desire for control rather than meaningful issues. He stresses allowing children some agency and being willing to relinquish battles over inconsequential matters. He also promotes open communication and mutual support between co-parents, with clear boundaries and accountability. Holiday admits parenting is an imperfect and ongoing journey, demanding constant adaptation, confession, and learning, a process enhanced by humility and shared effort. Finally, the conversation turns to how parents can raise children who are not spoiled, entitled, or disconnected from reality despite material comforts. Holiday emphasizes grounding children in both worlds, understanding privilege while cultivating character, self-sufficiency, and purpose. He advocates for parenting that nurtures a life's task, a personal passion or mission that gives meaning beyond legacy, wealth, or status. Modeling behavior, how one treats others, responds to challenges, and demonstrates virtues remains the most powerful teaching tool. Constant self-evaluation and openness to feedback are key in striving to be a positive influence and supportive guide.